Len, this is your father. You got to stop with this nonsense. You're 43 years old. Quit playing with your cards and get a real job.
And to that I say, for Sarah and my dad, maybe I should read that. La 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 la.
No.
La 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 la.
No.
Baseball cards. It's CardKast with Mike and Lenz, the show about everything sports cards, autographs, and memorabilia. I'm Len plus Z, and I'm here with my friend and co-host Mike D. Mike, it's time to start off the show with a word from our new sponsor.
Cut the crap!
That's an angry sponsor. He's Mike D, and he gets respect. Mike, what is going on in Brooklyn, man?
Oh, what's up, Lenny? How are you, bud?
Very, very good. Well,
not much really going on in Brooklyn. Everything's kind of quiet here. We can't really do much. We're still stuck at home, going out only for shopping. How about you?
Yeah, man, just, playing with baseball cards and trying not to shop. But yeah, we front loaded before, and we're sitting tight now for a little while and just trying to give these 2 weeks a really go at just sitting at home. So,
yeah.
But anyways, listen, we have a really good show here today. We're going to be remembering Kaline. Plus, we'll be going back in time with Baseball Cards the Magazine, not Beckett, because I ran out of Beckett's. But this Baseball Card the Magazine is pretty cool. But first, what are some of the highlights in the breaks that you had in the past week?
Oh my God, I don't even know where to start. I'm going to try to condense it because we've had so many good things come out. Just fun stuff. I'm going to talk about the headliner. We did a boxing, which a lot of people don't do. We did a boxing break. It was a 3-item break, which included a boxing glove, a pair of shorts or a robe, and a flat, meaning either an 8x10 or a slabbed autograph. And it was the last item we pulled, a slabbed autograph of Muhammad Ali. Beckett slabbed. And it's cool because it was actually a pamphlet on Islam. So you have to kind of wonder how he signed that. And I always like to think back and track like different items, and especially baseball cards or baseball gloves. Who held this glove, an old glove from 100 years ago, or who wore it? And you have to wonder, like, who was he in a mosque? Was he, talking to somebody and he just signed it? So I find that very interesting. But the person who won it, I mean, they got it for, I believe it was $1. Like, it was a cheap break, and the person who won it, got a really, really good deal on a Muhammad Ali Beckett slab. It's a huge Beckett slab too. So that was pretty cool.
That is like literally the biggest name you can get.
Oh, absolutely. That was easily the big hit. There's also the one of the other hits they have is a Floyd Mayweather redemption for a belt, a signed belt. But I'd rather have Muhammad Ali if you're asking me.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, championship belts are pretty sweet, but Muhammad Ali, the greatest.
Yeah, and he'll tell you. One of the other things we did, I was able to pick up a 1975 Topps mini pack. So we had talked about this with Jimmy Ryan, at least with the 75 minis, not too long ago in one of our shows. And the 75 minis are really tough to get. They were actually only produced or distributed in Michigan and then on the West Coast. So this was like a Topps introduction to smaller cards to see if it stuck. And obviously it didn't because they didn't make any more minis. But they do hold really high value. As a matter of fact, if you look on eBay right now, there is somebody who's trying to sell a 75 Topps Brett rookie mini for $30,000. Well, PSA actually has it for, they value it at $19,500.
And what is that? So, the SMR magazine?
Well, it's actually, it's not the magazine. It's just, I guess it could be. It's just their PSA website. They actually give you the grade. So I guess it's SMR. It's the same type of thing. So I thought that was pretty cool. So I gave that a whirl, and we did 50 cents a spot. So every spot was 50 cents. We did all 660. Everybody got a card, and we broke it. And we actually hit a couple of Hall of Famers. Obviously, one of them was Red Schoendienst, which, I mean, he's a Hall of Famer, but it was his manager card with the team. So not so spectacular, but still a Hall of Famer. And then also we got a really nice Frank Robinson, later year Frank Robinson. 75 Topps with the Indians, which I thought was really cool.
How fun is it to open up a pack that's older than you and just get really sharp cards?
Oh, man, it is. Every card was beautiful. I mean, obviously, beautiful, beautiful cards. A little off-centered, but most of them for the year, most of them were centered pretty nicely. It was 10 cards for the pack, and what was really nice was that the gum didn't stick, which is a big question when you're opening up a pack from that long ago. The gum actually came right off the bottom card, and you and I know that we could use a little pantyhose to just take that gum stain right off the back of the card. So it's not even a stain; it's just a feel. So you could get that right off if you want to. So 10 beautiful cards and a piece of gum. So that was pretty cool.
Well, it sounded like it was. Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say it sounded like it was stored properly. If the gum didn't stick, I mean, if it was in a non-temperature controlled environment, things that get really hot and the gum kind of sugar. So.
Yeah, exactly. You're talking 45 years ago. So I was very happy to see that, especially because we had a problem with a 72 O-Pee-Chee pack where all the cards were ruined. So hopefully it's hit or miss, but hopefully more hit than miss with these older packs, and it's the chance we take. But this one turned out really good. Now, if you don't want to buy a pack and you actually still want to get really nice vintage cards, I do other breaks, and there's a company called, and I'll give them a plug here because I love them, sportscards.com. They create these packages. They buy sets, full sets, and then break them down into maybe 30, 40, 50 different boxes where if you buy all the boxes, it's the entire set, but they break them down and they put like 12 cards, 15 cards per box, and you can buy them. So I do that and I break them, and we've done a 59 tops, and we did a 60 tops just this week. And 59 tops, we got a beautiful, and they buy high-end stuff. These are all gradable cards. You're talking anywhere between 6s and 8s. Maybe you get lucky, you could find a 9. Beautiful, beautiful cards. We found a beautiful 59 tops Frank Robinson. So not only do we get Frank Robinson in 75 tops mini, we also got him in the 59 tops.
Everybody gets a Frank Robinson.
Yeah, you get a Frank Robinson. It's like Oprah.
Yeah.
It was awesome. The Frank Robinson, I love that card. 59 tops with the Cincinnati red legs, not the Reds yet. So that was pretty cool. Also, we did the 60 yesterday, and while we didn't get too many, they guarantee you a Hall of Famer. The Hall of Famer was Nellie Fox, and if you're a Chicago White Sox fan, that's a big name for you. So that was pretty cool. We also got the Atlanta Braves, or Milwaukee Braves at the time, I think, team card, which would have some Hall of Famers in it for sure. So those were some of the breaks we did recently. Oh, you know what else I pulled, which was really cool? In my opening day break, we pulled a signed base, a full-size base signed by Maury Wills. It was inscribed 102 stolen bases. So I thought that was really cool as well. So someone grabbed that for, I think W was like $2 or $3. So that was a really, really cool hit as well. So those are probably the highlights of everything. We got a couple of other things, a Fran Tarkenton 8x10, a Lawrence Taylor 8x10, Warren Sapp jersey. All of them, really inexpensive, but fun stuff.
And those items are all signed, correct?
Oh yeah, everything is autographed. Everything's autographed. So obviously, other than the cards that come out of the packs. But yeah, beautiful, beautiful stuff. And that's it. What's going on in the land of vintage? Anything exciting going on?
Yes. First off, I just like to start, while I'm doing all my sorting and things like that, I'll try to pop in and check out some of the things that you have going on in your opening day breaks.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah, you got it. And then while I'm sorting, it's kind of like I have like cards on steroids in my office. I also pay attention. There's a guy, I'm just going to give him a little shout out. He's subscribed to our channel. I subscribe to his, and I've been watching his shows, and he's got a nice channel where he's got a good variety. The guy's name is John Rossi. The channel is Talking Ball Cards. And he does some similar stuff that we do, where he does some open and reveals from grading companies like SGC and PSA. And it's very entertaining. And, if you don't know what you're really doing when it comes to grading vintage cards, watching him doing the open reveals and him explaining what he thought he might have gotten for a grade, or, how he might have gotten it exactly, or if he thought the grade was supposed to be higher and it came out lower, he finds, the reasons why. So it's almost like a little tutorial as far as grading older cards. He does a lot of Hall of Famers from the 60s, 70s, and 50s, and, Hall of Fame rookie cards and things like that. And it's really entertaining, and he puts in some big orders, and he's pretty much a collector. And then he also does through the mail autographs, where he gets back the envelopes, and then he'll open, and you get to check out to see what cards were autographed. And then what he'll do is he'll share the addresses at the end of the videos there. So if you want to send in something yourself, you can. And then also he does some some modern box breaks of just, maybe some modern football boxes or whatever. But it's very entertaining to have that on. Then the phone chimes in and you got your opening day stuff. And then I'm going through and I'm almost done sorting, counting, and photographing about 17,000 cards from the 70s. Monday to Wednesday night, I'll be starting 300 to 400 auctions on eBay, which will include complete sets from the 70s and early 80s, tons of near complete sets from the same time frame, and a bunch of singles as well. So anyways, well, listen, we have some questions sent in by some of our listeners. Tom Carlack wrote in from Kansas City. He's got multiple questions, but he asked, and I'll start this, I'll basically ask you, Mike, what's your all-time favorite card?
Well, it's tough to say all-time favorite that I've owned or all-time favorite that I have. My all-time favorite, is the iconic Mickey Mantle card. I've never owned it. My dad and I collected when we were kids, and the best we could get, because it was so expensive, was a 53 Topps. The card was really, really damaged. It had coffee stains on it, but we loved that card. And as a matter of fact, when my dad passed, we ended up selling most of his stuff, especially his Mantle stuff, my brother and I. And my brother actually kept that Mantle card because it's a great memory of my dad. So just in general, the 52 Mantle card that I own is, and you may have, I think I've shown it to you because I got it framed with the Jordan picture, but I actually was able to purchase a Michael Jordan autographed card. It's actually right next to me here in my office. It's a 1 of 5 SP Upper Deck Supreme Court Authentic, and it's Michael Jordan in North Carolina blue, and it's a signed piece of the floor, and it's signed. It's 1 of 5. It's a beautiful card. I actually got it framed and with a picture of him, and it's hanging up in my office. I absolutely love the card. I love staring at it every day, to be honest with you. How about you?
Having an autograph of Michael Jordan, they're out there, but they are expensive. And but just being able to have that piece, that guy is just, he's on a different level when it comes to collecting. And going back to the Mantles, both cards, the 52 Topps and the 53 Topps as well, those are pieces of art. The way they did those, I believe it was Jerry Dvorak did the 53 Topps Mantle, the one that you and your father and your brother have. Yeah, it's amazing. And for me, my most favorite card to look at would be the 53 Bowman color Pee Wee Reese. And it's an awesome action shot of Pee Wee leaping over a sliding base runner to make a throw to first. It's a very iconic card.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, it's not like cards today where it's an actual picture. So yeah, there was a picture of that, but then they add the art and the colors to it, and it just looks phenomenal. And I always I've owned that card a couple times. I've actually owned it signed. I don't have it in my possession, but it's a great card. And then I really like and fell in love with the 76 Topps Gary Carter Cup card and the 78 Topps Andre Dawson Cup card as well. Growing up, I was actually able to get those cards when I was a kid because they were affordable. But there's something about the Topps All-Star rookies that really, kind of tug at my heartstrings from when I was a kid. And those two guys... Yeah, those two guys were in the primes of their careers when I started collecting. So being able to kind of go back to the 70s and get those two cards, those are two of my favorite cards of all time as well.
Yeah, those Cup cards, when they reintroduced those in 1987 with 87 Topps, I was collecting. You couldn't get me enough Andy Allenson cards. Those were just, I didn't care. He was a Topps Cup. Come on. 88 Topps KC Candel. He's a Topps Cup. You got to buy them.
Pete and Caviglia all day.
Oh, yeah, all day. I didn't care who it was.
Jeff Musselman.
Yeah. It didn't matter. Because if Topps thought they were worthy of having a cup, I wanted them.
Yeah.
So as a kid, those were the cards you put. I had a special book, we called it, and those cards went in there until those guys fizzled out. So funny stuff.
Agreed.
Well, piggybacking off that, what's a card maybe that you would never sell? And I don't, you know what? I'm going to ask that question, but I don't know if there's an answer to it for you because you had what I deem the greatest card of all time, and you sold it. So I want to hear from you if there's a card that you would have that you would never sell.
Yeah, right now. Well, so I obviously being that this is how I make a living, pretty much almost everything at some point becomes for sale. But right now I have 2 cards that I actually recently picked up, probably in the past 6 or 7 months. And one is it's another iconic card. It's a 69 Topps Johnny Bench signed, inscribed, and encapsulated All-Star rookie card. So just him in that catcher's position with the Reds card. It was a card I desired, wanted to have when I was a kid, and was a little out of my price range. It's got the real tall trophy on it. Just a card that I absolutely love. So it's a signed version, and then also it's been encapsulated and authenticated by PSA DNA. Also has a Rookie of the Year inscription. And then the other one is it kind of goes with that. He's another fan favorite. Should be in the Hall of Fame. Cincinnati Reds 64 Topps Pete Rose signed and encapsulated. Again, another card that I couldn't afford when I was a kid, but now that I have it signed, just putting the 2 side by side, being that they both have the tall All-Star rookies, the trophies on there, and that they're both signed. And they're both legendary Reds players. Those are my 2 favorite cards right now that I'll never sell, because I know, at some point those guys' autographs on those cards, they just keep going up and up and up. So at some point, I mean, the signed versions are going to become very unaffordable.
I agree. I was prefacing. Now, obviously, you've been a dealer for many, many years, and I had mentioned one of the cards. My I don't know if it's my dream card, but it's definitely an awesome card. Your score pack pulled Mickey Mantle, numbered 7 out of, I don't remember exactly how many there were, but to have that card numbered 7, autographed card, one of the most amazing cards ever. Maybe you could just talk about that for a minute, because I don't think we've talked about that yet on the show.
No, we haven't. I remember picking it up. It might have been back around 2012 when the hobby was at its low point. And I think I paid, I don't know, $700 for the card. And it was already Beckett authenticated. The card was actually graded. I believe it was graded at 8.5 or a 9. And then the autograph grade was a 10. And it was serial numbered 7 out of, I believe it was either 1,500 or 2,500. I don't exactly remember. But I do believe I'm pretty sure I still have the scan buried somewhere in one of my scan drives, because I did that for the past 10 years. I mean, anything that I got that was even somewhat cool, medium cool, I have pretty much saved that, I felt that it was worthy to just go back and look and say, wow, I actually bought and sold that. That's pretty cool. So I've got a nice collection of scan discs that have all that information on there. And we'll probably end up going back and, doing a show just off of that, or I may just put together a video of just all the cool stuff that I've come across at some point. But yeah, so I picked it up, I think, for $700, and I don't know, eventually I think I sold it for $1,100. But the fact that it was numbered 7, I mean, I enjoyed owning it for the, probably the 6 months that I've had it, 8 months. And then somebody came along and scooped it up, and there it goes. You got to pay the bills.
Yeah.
So
Of course.
And how about you?
I'll tell you, mine is more about memories, and again, talking about my dad. And this is actually kind of weird, but funny. I don't know if it's funny. But so my brother took the 53 Topps card of Mantle to remind him of my dad. So my dad was a big, we collected a lot in the 80s. So obviously you'll remember Renato Galasso. And
yes,
they put out a ton of different products and stuff, but they also sold a bunch of stuff. So one of the things they sold, and it's very funny. So they sold, we must have done this in 1984. They sold a lot of cards. I think it was like $4 at the time. You get one card from 1958 to 1983 or 1959 to 1983. I don't have it with me, so I don't remember exactly the years, but it was one card from Topps from each year, and the cards are beautiful. Obviously, you're not getting superstars in there, but you know what's cool? I did find in that lot a 1967 the Paul Shaw error card, the green bat card, which I didn't even know existed for a long, long time. But my dad had it in our special book, and he called it the Hobos, because it was just all like, no-name players. But it was the first group of cards after the pictures. So my dad had cards of me and my brother when we were little in our Little League cards. So that was the first couple of pages. Then after that, it went to the Hobos. So that always reminds me of my dad. So that's something I would never get rid of. It's one card from each year. I want to say from 58 to 83. So it's one card from each year, and I I'll look at them and I love them. It reminds me of my dad who passed away, 8 years ago now. So it's a nice memory of him.
Yeah. Plus, you guys made the hobo book, so.
That's right. Well, it was actually the special book. The hobos made it after that. Then it was the Mantles. Then it was the Mattingleys. I mean, you're talking 9 pocket sheets full, 3, 4, 5 sheets deep of 84 Topps Mattingly cards. We were huge Yankee Mattingly Mantle fans. So that was a lot of fun. Well, what we would do is we would take either the CCP, which was the Beckett before the Beckett, current card prices, or then when the Beckett came out, we would get the Beckett, and every month my dad would put a sheet together and price every single card, and we'd see how much everything went up, went down, and we'd tally it up and see how much our collection was worth.
Nice. And I'm pretty sure that you weren't the only one. One of the things, and we'll get into it in just a little bit when we go back in time in Baseball Cards and Magazine, I was floored when I went. I couldn't believe how well produced this magazine was. I really never got into it because, like you said, I started off with current card prices, and then immediately, I didn't really start buying Beckett magazines until about, maybe 1987, 88, something like that. The one that the magazine that we're going to touch upon later on is from 1985. And what you said about getting those particular lots, there's actually ads in that magazine, and we'll get into that later. But you could see where the structure is. And think about it, you only have so much material because it's 1985. You said that you purchased it in 1984. There is no 88 Donruss to mix into any of the lots or anything. So really all you have is older material and whatever is out in the present. And there's going to be some amazing, I'm so happy that I actually have a small archive of these magazines, because we're not even be able to cover everything in this magazine. I just pulled out some things, and it's not going to be the last of this particular magazine. So it's going to be good stuff.
Awesome. We have another question. Lenz Sr. wrote in from Washington State, all the way across the country. Are there any umpire collectibles? That's an interesting question. I have some answers here, but I want to hear. I'm going to pose this to you, Len. What do you say, bud?
Yeah, I mean, people who are baseball enthusiasts that collect will go outside the box and get autographs of umpires, team owners, announcers. And for umpires signed baseballs, 1955 Bowman cards, which is really the first elaborate part of a set that actually featured umpires. Those are very popular. Jocko Conlon, who's in the Hall of Fame, Doug Harvey, they kind of come to mind as being some of the most sought after guys. But yeah,
I put that 55 Bowman set together, and those cards are in the high number section of the set, and those cards are very expensive. So you want to get a Jocko Conlon, or that's a get. You got to go and really pay up for those type of cards. The umpires were mostly in the high number series, and they're expensive. They're expensive cards.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's pretty safe to say that I don't think there's anybody out there that just collects umpire stuff. There might be one or two freaks out there, but you go into.
Let's not call them freaks.
I'm going to call them freaks. You're freaky if you just collect umpire stuff. Like look at Yankee Stadium. I mean, Bob Shepard, Eddie Layton, the organist. I mean, people will actually go out, and then those guys' autographs, those command premium. So because they're attached, it's only natural, I think, for people to kind of say, you know what, yeah, I'll get some of those baseballs.
Yeah, I actually I grabbed maybe like 6 months ago, a year ago, a Mel Allen autograph. Just because I always loved Mel Allen. And This Week in Baseball, he voiced of the Yankees for a long time. So, yeah, I get it. People think outside the box.
Absolutely. So, let's see. So, Tom Carlack also, and I grew up with Tom Carlack. So, shout out to Tom Carlack all the way out in Kansas City. Thank you very much for listening to the show, and thank you for all your input. He's like a card guy for life. He also asked, what was your best interaction with a sports figure?
Well, I could give you a story of mine that I love telling. So it's got to be probably 1988, 1989. So this is kind of a long-winded story, but I'll try to cut it down a little bit. The guy who was like very popular in my town was building a gym, a state-of-the-art gym. He had taken over a gas station right behind my house, and he was going to build a gym. And he was very, very popular with a lot of the sports figures. As a matter of fact, his daughter ended up marrying Brian Leach of the New York Rangers, and he housed a lot of the New York Mets during the season. He had houses in the area, and he had Jesse Orozco and Dave Maggett and guys like that stay at his house. So he had a groundbreaking ceremony, and I guess the Dodgers must have been in town. So at the groundbreaking ceremony was Jesse Orozco, Roger McDowell, Fernando Valenzuela, and Brian Holton. So Holton is probably the least famous of the four of them. He was a pitcher for the Dodgers. So I went up, when I heard they were coming, I went through my 5,000 count box, which I had tons of 88 Topps cards. I got all four players, and I was like, I'm going to get signatures for all these guys. And I did. So the best story was Roger McDowell. I handed him the card. He signed it for me, and I said, thank you. And he looks at me, and he goes, what did you say? And I said, thank you. He goes, is your mother here? I said, no, my father's over there. He goes, go get your father. I want to speak to him. Now I'm all scared. I had no idea what he wanted to say. So I go over to my dad, and he's like, I said, Dad, Roger McDowell wants to talk to you. He goes, come on. I said, Dad, Roger McDowell wants to talk to you. Roger McDowell, my dad walks over to Roger McDowell. He goes, I just want to tell you that you raised your son really well. He goes, I've been signing autographs all day, and he is the first person to say thank you.
Wow, that's a really cool story.
Yeah, I don't know if I ever told you that story before, but it was just a great, made me feel so good, made my dad feel good. So it was a really, really nice story. And I guess Roger McDowell down the road, he did this thing where he started bending cards. I don't know if you know this. He started bending, like when he would sign an autograph, he would bend the card so that you couldn't resell it because, Roger McDowell autographs go for like millions of dollars. So I thought that was kind of funny. So he's got that character to him.
Oh, yeah, yeah. You see that portrayed in some of the cards. Like he's wearing like all these goofy, glasses, and his hat's always backwards. Like he's always hamming it up or at least there's multiple cards out there where he's hamming it up for the camera.
Yeah. Let me ask you, you must have had a million interactions with some famous sports figures. What's your best story?
Yeah, I don't want to tell any. No, listen, I love the question. My favorite I'm going to save for a future show because it's too long. But I'll let you ask the next question.
Yeah. I was just going to ask you, do you ever get starstruck or meet your boyhood sports hero?
No, usually people get starstruck when they meet me. So.
Usually people get neck injuries when they meet you because you're 6'8".
I know. Yeah, there's a couple people that I got starstruck with, but that's because when they walk into the room, like I've walked past and met, and I in the back room of one of the White Plains shows, I was kind of like, it was just, I wasn't purposely hanging out with Yogi Berra, but I just happened to be near there because I had some work I had to do with Brian, and some guy I kind of felt, Yogi was just trying to sit there. He was standing there and he was just trying to eat lunch. He was literally trying to scarf down a hot dog almost as fast as he could. And some guy was just, telling him how great he was and how he looked up to him. And Yogi was like, he just kept eating and he kept nodding his head. And the guy was like, all right, Yogi, talk to you later. I don't think Yogi said anything to him. And then Yogi, as soon as the guy walked away, Yogi looked up at me, being that he's, 5'8", 9", I don't know how tall he is. He looks up at me and he just shrugs his shoulders and just like turned around and walked away. So I busted out laughing when I saw that. That's one story, but I think the full circle story that I like to tell is my first interaction with Andre Dawson, who was my childhood hero. That was the guy I collected. So I think I'm 19 years old, going down to Shea Stadium. It's Andre Dawson's last year, and he's with the Florida Marlins. And my buddy's a huge Mets fan, and at that time, I think we were going to 10 or 15 games a year. We were buying the diamond package and the home run package, and it was it was like $150 for the year to go to all those games. It was crazy cheap. It was fun, and so we get down there and we're waiting for the Marlins bus to arrive, and we're out in the back, and there's only 12 to 15 people total. And one guy was like, this is my first time really actually going to get an autograph. I'm stalking somebody at a game or something like that. So the first time I ever did that, and I never got into it. I did not like the feeling of it. And I think because of the way this went down, I was like, I just kind of really just didn't want to chase down. I'd rather actually pay a ticket and get it in line as opposed to meeting somebody on the street and actually getting an autograph. It's just how I feel. Felt weird. So the bus comes up. Andre Dawson's one of the last guys to get off. He's both of his hands he's got like his bat bag and he's got his gym bag, and both of them are he's got both his hands are full. And I happened to be talking to one guy who's like a veteran before. He's like, Andre's great. He's like, I have like 30 index cards signed by him. Like this guy, all he did was he just collected signed index cards, and he had a stack of them. And just anybody that would come by, he would try to get their autograph. So I have my caricature T-shirt when he was on the Cubs, and I mean I saved that from when I was I don't know 12, 13 years old. I was still able to fit in it. It was fine, and So
but you were wearing it?
Oh yeah, I was wearing it. Yep. So I wore that shirt, and I had one of my favorite cards, like top 3, 1978 Topps Andre Dawson. I would love to have had a signature on that. So I had a pen, Sharpie and the card ready, and I was like, Andre, it's like you're my favorite player of all time. I got the Cub shirt on, everything, and the people were kind of crowding him, and he just said, I can't put down my bags. And he kept walking. And I was like devastated. I was just like, oh my God, this is, I was like and in my head, I'm like, this is the only time, this is his last season. I'm never going to be able to see Andre Dawson again. I'm never going to be able to get this card signed. eBay wasn't even a thing yet. So I was like, cause his retirement year was 1996. So what ended up happening is through the JPRS shows, the ones that Jimmy Ryan, Jimmy Ryan and Brian Coppola run, they had him coming in, and I said, Brian, I got to meet Andre Dawson. You got to hook this up for me. He's like, yep, no problem. So I get into the back room and shake his hand, and I was for a guy that's 6'3", he looked like he was 6'10". He's in such good shape, posture. Oh, yeah. I mean, my posture is pretty good, but his posture, it just made him look taller than what he was. You would have thought he was 6'6", and he was in fantastic shape. This was about, I'd have to say, probably about 9 years ago, maybe in 2011. It was right after he got into the Hall of Fame in 2010. Very deservedly so, too, by the way. So we're talking, and because then I felt like, I was trying to put myself in his shoes. I know in 1996, Ozzie Smith and Kirby Puckett were getting a lot of shine because they both announced their retirements, and Ozzie was done, but Kirby was forced out of the game because of the eye injury. And to me, it seemed like Andre Dawson was like kind of like on the washed up side. He made his announcement, but when Ozzie and Kirby retired, every time they went to a ballpark, they got like, a giant candy dish or a big brass plate or something commemorating their career. And Andre wasn't getting that. He wasn't getting that love. So I asked him, I said, I felt like, I figured I'd jump on his side. Like, I felt like you kind of got screwed a little bit. And, these guys, had long careers, but I said, your career was great. And they were going on a retirement tour. And I felt bad because you didn't get that much attention paid to you as you were making your way through your last season. And he just looked at me and he just said, and he's quiet, reserved, very nice, very polite. He just said, he goes, that was for them. He goes, that was for them. They deserved that. He's like, I didn't mind that. I didn't have any thoughts about that, but he goes, that was for them. And I was glad to see that they got that recognition from other ballparks. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then, we talked a little bit more about working out and stuff like that. And then, so they have at these shows, they have the show posters, and the guy, my good friend, Marty Zajac, who works for them, shout out to Marty Mart. They create these posters where the players will sit in front of the posters, and they have the times and sometimes the prices and stuff like that. So they grab the poster, and the card that they use on the poster, it's a giant oversized card of the 78 Topps All-Star rookie. So, and I have the poster, and I have to get it framed. It's still rolled up in a tube, but he wrote, to Lenny, all the best, Andre Dawson, Hall of Fame, and just really just tatted it up nice and a nice thin blue Sharpie. And and I know that Andre's got a really nice signature.
He's my favorite signature of all time.
So having that oversized piece, I have to get it done. I have to get it framed.
I don't know why you don't.
I know.
This is the first thing of this, and I'm shocked. I'm going to have to harass you now every day to get that framed.
Well, I'll have to get it done, and then I'll take a picture. We'll post it on the on our Facebook fan page for CardKast with Mike and Lenz for sure. So make sure you jump over on that too and like that as well.
That sounds good. You know, if you don't mind, I just wanted to circle back for 1 second because we cut it short with the umpires. I just wanted to mention that the umpires are not only in 1955 Bowman, but more recently they're in a lot of like cut signature things that are done. So there are a lot of cut autos of like Al Barlick and Doug Harvey. Doug Harvey's in Cooperstown. Panini created some Cooperstown sets where you get autographs from Hall of Famers in the early 2010s, the teens, I guess we call it, like 2012, 2013. Then there was some Pacific, 89 Pacific. They did some umpire stuff. And then also 1990, this company called TM Sports created packs of just umpires. So just to circle back there was some interesting stuff when I did some research on umpires that I didn't know about. So very interesting stuff there.
Yeah, I mean, and you know what? Hopefully they never get replaced with machines or equipment. You know, I like the, you know, just even the look of the umpire. It's got that authority figure.
No, absolutely. But I want to thank the guys who asked the questions and wrote in. If you guys want to ask questions, please feel free to comment below or email us at CardKast, CardKast @gmail.com.
And speaking of more questions, I don't know if you know this, but my next door neighbor happens to be Gollum. Yes, Gollum from Lord of the Rings.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and he's on mic 2 right now, and he's got a question. What's baseball cards precious? Well, that's a little vague. Here, you can hold this. It's a 1981 Topps Clint Hurdle. It's mine. My own precious. Well, a good example of a precious would be a Hank Aaron rookie card, a Tom Brady pack-pulled autograph, any playing days mantle. What you have is just a common. Commonses? Common. Commonses. Well, you have one card, so that's a common. More than one card, you would have commons, but there's no such word as commons. What's its worth, precious? It really doesn't have any monetary value, but because I gave you your first baseball card, it should have sentimental value. You can keep your nasty commonses. Thanks for ripping the card I just gave you. All right, when you come over later, you're bringing beer. And put a shirt on, Gollum from Lord of the Rings.
Wow, that Gollum guy is crazy.
Yeah, man. I mean, he doesn't... I think I've seen him go out to get the mail, and he uses his loincloth as a face mask. So, not good. Not very sanitary. But I like hanging out with him.
Unfortunately, earlier this week, we had to say goodbye to legendary Detroit Tiger, Hall of Famer, Al Kaline. Sad news. You know, it happens, but what a great player, Len.
Yeah, it's very sad. And, you know, somebody that, for baseball, I mean, he is Detroit, without a doubt. Because it wasn't even only his baseball career, but it was also his color commentating for all the years that he had done as well. So he was a face for Detroit for a long, long time.
Yeah, Mr. Tiger. Man, so I was doing some research on him. I was actually really impressed. You know, you hear about Hall of Famers and you don't really know the extent of their greatness, but this is somebody who was signed early on, never played in the minor leagues. He was considered one of the bonus babies, so that was very interesting. I had no idea that he was never in the minor leagues. Also, which is, I guess it's typical. He's very much known for wearing number 6 his whole career, but the first year he came up, he was actually number 25, and this happens a lot. I know what happened with my favorite player of all time, Don Mattingly. He came up number 46, and the following year he got a lower number and became 23. I think the same thing happened with Mantle. He was 6, and then he moved to 7.
Yeah,
that's
correct. And Mattingly was just like, I'm going to chop that number in half. So.
Yeah, exactly. And 23 became iconic. And I was looking at some of Kaline's accolades. He's one of only, I think, maybe 13 guys, if I'm not mistaken. I didn't write that down, but he hit 2 home runs in the same inning. He's also the youngest player ever to hit 3 home runs in 1 game. That was pretty interesting.
And how did you know how old? Probably 19, 20, right? Something like that.
Yeah, probably. I don't know the exact age, but I thought that was very interesting. Also, I believe he was only in 1 World Series, but he had a monster World Series. He batted .379 with 2 home runs and 8 RBIs in 7 games.
Now that I didn't know. That I didn't know.
Yeah, when they won the World Series, I think they won the World Series, right? 65? Did they win the World Series? I didn't write it down.
No,
I know they have.
68.
When was it?
68.
68?
Yeah.
That's right, 60. Okay. Also, when he was kind of nearing the end of his career, he actually got into it. This is something I didn't know, and I guess if you were a baseball fan in 1970, you would know this, but he got into a collision with Jim Northrup in the outfield, and he actually started turning blue, and the third outfielder, Willie Horton, ran over to him and cleared his airway, and Al Kaline credits him with saving his life on the baseball field. I had no idea that happened.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah. Also, another thing I didn't know happened. So apparently he was so stuck on getting 3,000 hits, and he was like so excited to retire. As soon as he got his 3,000th hit, he announced he was retiring that year. So I think he only ended up with like 3,007 or 3,008 hits in his career.
Yeah, it was 3,007 hits, 399 home runs, and I think I remember hearing a quote from him I think he said something like, "I didn't know how many home runs I had. If I knew I only needed one more, I would have stuck around for the extra home run."
Yeah, he's that type of guy. He wanted to get to like milestones.
I mean, but the other thing too is a 22-year career. He's an 18-time All-Star, 10 Gold Gloves. I mean,
well, that's one of the things. He was a big. He led the league, I think, in 56 and 58 with assists. So as much as you think of him with the bat having an amazing career, he was also a great fielder. You talked about how many 10 Gold Gloves or something. That's amazing. So not every good hitting outfielder is a good fielding outfielder.
Well,
that's pretty special.
Billy Martin, who managed him, nicknamed Mr. Perfection because of his hitting, fielding, running, throwing skills. He does it with such an extra touch of brilliance. I mean, that's the 5 tool. And I don't think he really, I mean, I'm sure people that grew up watching him realize that, but as baseball gets passed down to the kids, and like when you and I were growing up around the same era, it's like, yeah, we knew Al Kaline is a great Hall of Famer, but we really didn't know the details of it. So it's really fun to go back and look.
It absolutely is. Absolutely is. I did notice that he was a first ballot Hall of Famer, and he got 88.3% of the votes, which back in the day is probably a pretty big deal, because a lot of people didn't vote for you your first year, as we talk about every single year with some of these other guys. So that was pretty interesting. Also, they renamed the street after him behind the Tiger Stadium, so it's now Kaline Drive, which is pretty interesting. And then after his career was over, he was a broadcaster. So if you were our age and you grew up in the Michigan area, you would have listened to him and George Kell. And he was a broadcaster from 1975 to 2002. So, I mean, I grew up with Phil Rizzuto as my broadcaster for the Yankees. So I guess he's the Detroit Tigers' Phil Rizzuto. That's pretty interesting as well.
Very interesting. Also, too, in 1957, he formed a business with Gordie Howe and mutual friend Frank Carlin. I mean, think about that. Al Kaline and Gordie Howe going into business together. And
Thumbs up.
He agreed to Al Kaline agreed to be the salesman of subcontracts for automotive parts design, which is only fitting because you're in Detroit. I mean, the automotive industry was booming back then.
Yeah, and Gordie Howe, obviously a Detroit Red Wing. That's very interesting. One of the other things I noticed, I saw that his grandson. So he had a couple of sons, and then his grandson was drafted twice by the Detroit Tigers. Once out of high school and once out of college, but he never really made it. He ended up in the low-level minors. But that's interesting that the family legacy was passed down. Then I started researching his cards, and I did notice that he's got a 54 Topps rookie, and PSA 8s go for really good money, $3,000. And I actually saw a PSA 1, which is probably along the lines of what I could afford, was $150. So now that I'm, after we did our research on him, I'm actually thinking of picking up like a PSA 2 or 3 Al Kaline rookie card just to have.
Yeah, that's a fantastic card in that set. I was going to say myself, I was like, I didn't even have to look it up, but I knew that even in the lowest grade copies, the ones that were scraped across the parking lot or thrown into the bicycle spokes, you're not getting them for less than $100. And obviously as the grade goes up, the wallet just gets drained. So and for myself, again, being in the business of buying and selling cards, I always get excited when his 50s and 60s cards came into deals. I mean, it was fantastic. You know, his cards running from 1954 to 1975 is a perfect way to collect a rainbow of a player. The guy played his whole career with the team, so you try to get one of every Topps baseball card, and that's what they call a rainbow. So from 1954 to 1975, anything that's a base card, that's the rainbow. People do it with Clemente, they do it with Aaron, they do it with Mays. It's a fun thing to do. And as you were saying with the 54, I don't know, I might try to do it. Who knows? Maybe enough collections will come my way where I could just pick them out, and I don't really have to go out and directly purchase them, but who knows? And the other thing that I really like about Al Kaline's collectibles, especially with the signed memorabilia, is that he just had so many inscriptions. So, I mean, he's got the 3,007 hits. He didn't make the 400 home run club, but still, if you threw 399 home runs on it, great. Hall of Fame 1980, 10-time Gold Glove, 18-time All-Star, 1968 World Series champs. So those are all great, great things that just kind of add a little extra touch. And he was never considered, I hate to say this, but in the hobby, for those of people that, that are kind of newer to the hobby, and you hear Hall of Fame, unfortunately, there's a term out there that is called common Hall of Famers. So the guys that are at the bottom of the class that either just got in or they got in, but nobody really cares. It was nobody's favorite player. I hate to say that, but Al Kaline was always in that, upper middle, middle to upper tier class, and that's always.
Oh yeah,
nice
that goes without saying because he was such a fan favorite of such a popular team. The Detroit Tigers have a huge fan base. I'm in a Detroit Tiger group on Facebook. I'm a Yankee fan, but I love all teams, and the people in the room are so active and love their team and talk about guys in the minors, and so that there's a passion for that team. So to be the best player ever on that team is a big deal. So he's always going to be one of those upper echelon type guys for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely, and the team goes back to turn of the century. So
yeah,
it's one of those few deeply rooted teams that are that are still there. So and he has carved out a big piece of history for himself there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, now it's time to hop in the DeLorean, fire up that flux capacitor, and we're going to go to October 1985. Baseball Cards, the magazine. Again, we're not doing Beckett because I don't have any Beckett's, but I'm very happy that we're going to cover this well-produced magazine. Being that this is 1985, I'm floored at how well this was done because I just was drinking the Beckett Kool-Aid. And again, this magazine was so well done, at least this particular one that I was going through last night feverishly to get ready for the show. I just couldn't believe the content that was in there. One of the things that is in there that we're not even going to get into is that there's an article about collecting proofs, and the article was written by Keith Olbermann. And Keith Olbermann's name is going to come up multiple times as we do the show because he's had his feet and fingers or whatever in a lot of different projects that has to do with baseball cards on top of being growing up. I mean, I watched him as an ESPN analyst, an ESPN sports analyst, and he was hilarious. And him and that crew in the early 90s, I mean, I would skip my first class just to stay home and watch the ESPN highlights.
I hope your parents aren't listening to this.
Well, no, me neither. So, but anyways, so on the cover, they have a variety of cards. So again, this is going back to 1985. They have a 55 Bowman Mickey Mantle because they did do a big article on the 55 Bowman cards in here, but it's so big that it can actually just be a whole segment of a different show. But they have it, so we're not going to get into it, but they also have a 65 Topps Joe Namath rookie card. And then because Pete Rose was chasing down Ty Cobb, they have his 84 Flair card with the Expos. I believe that's his update card. And then also they did a big article on Willie Stargell. Again, I mean, we could do a whole show on Willie Stargell, but we're not going to this time. One of the things that I noticed was the show schedule. So in Beckett Magazine, they would have the show schedule broken down by state. Here in 1985, it was only 2 pages. Now, mind you, in 1987, it ballooned up to, I don't know, 7, 8, 9, 10 pages of show listings. Here, there was only 2 pages, and it was broken down by region. So instead of having like Connecticut, it had New England. They had shows in the Northeast, shows in the Middle Atlantic, shows in the Great Lakes, Mountain, Pacific. So I thought that was really, really interesting because, again, I'd never really dealt with this magazine before, and especially not at that time because I was not, if anything, I bought a couple packs of cards here and there, maybe in 85, maybe in 86, but I was still playing with my G.I. Joe guys.
It's funny because we actually did subscribe to it, and I love the cards in there, and I'm sure you'll talk about that as it goes on.
Well,
but yeah, it was a supplemental. It wasn't the we followed Beckett. Beckett was the big deal, or current card prices. This was like secondary, just to get more information.
Yeah, and what I found is that it's loaded. This magazine's loaded with information, and with the cards, because they did a special on 55 Bowman, the insert in this is a 1985. There was 2 cards. It was a 55 Bowman Mickey Mantle and a 55 Bowman Ernie Banks. And I think I'm going to try to razor these out and send them in the PSA and see if they'll actually grade them. I think it'd be pretty cool.
I've seen them graded. So yeah. Absolutely. But they are, I will tell you, and I will tell everybody, guys, if you're trying to cut cards out of either box bottoms or something like this, they are, I don't know how PSA grades. I've seen some beautiful ones that grade like a 2. So I don't know exactly how they do it. So you got to be very careful when cutting stuff out and sending it into PSA. I'm not sure what their requirements are for an 8, 9, or 10 on cut cards like that.
Well, just so to make everybody feel okay about that, I plan on using my grade school lefty pair of scissors to cut them out. So.
Oh, safety scissors?
Well, not safety scissors. They were remember the metal scissors in grade school and the lefties. There was only like maybe 1 in the class or 2 in the class, and they had like the green like rubber around it to kind of give it that distinction that those are lefty scissors and these are righty scissors.
I'm a lefty. Oh, I know. Yeah.
Yeah. So I still have them.
Awesome.
So going back to the thing that you noted or touched upon earlier with that the Bozo binder, what I noticed here. It definitely grabbed my attention was that there's a company out there called San Diego Sports Collectibles. So first of all, I want to say usually we try to see like who was signing and what they were signing for. I didn't find any signings of any autographs. I'm sure there were people going out to shows, but they weren't being advertised, at least in this magazine. So you could have gotten Topps Hall of Famer lots from San Diego Sports Collectibles, and basically they would send you their choice, but they would give you the year. So like Hank Aaron, for example, if you wanted 3 cards from 1962 to 1967, all different, it would have cost you $21.75 plus shipping and handling for 3 cards of your choice. Ernie Banks from 1960 to 64, 3 cards, $8.25. If you wanted Mickey Mantle from 1959 to 1960, I would have to say that this is Leaders cards and some of his other inserts. These can't be base cards, but Mickey Mantle was $43 if you wanted 3 different Mickey Mantles. So I don't know if you're getting home run leaders or RBI leaders or things like that. But then again, when I go over the prices of some of the things that stand out, I usually do that just to kind of see where we're at. I'm amazed at what some of the prices are, how low they are. And again, this is 1985. This is like just on the cusp of the hobby and the industry exploding into a business and just capturing that lightning in a bottle before the 1994 strike, where just everything was on fire. So that was kind of cool. And they have some other kind of like 150 different cards, including Clemente, Mantle, Aaron, Drysdale, Whitey Ford, Killebrew, a bunch of Hall of Famers from 1957 to 1962, $79. So they were packaging these up, for sale, and they're just basically doing just kind of bulk, which is kind of interesting. Oh, so great. Instead of a reader's right, they have collector Q&A. So they, people would write in, and the collector Q&A section was huge. And I guess a lot of people had a lot of time back then because people were just scouring over the cards to find any kind of error. Like, people weren't looking for errors that existed. People were looking for errors that didn't exist. And I was just amazed by that. So we're not going to go over, obviously, all of them. I just picked out some select ones that were noteworthy. And so this person writes in, card number 176 in 1973 set looks like it has been painted or it's a negative. Would you please help me out and tell me what it is? And they wrote back, the cap on Chuck Taylor's 1973 card was painted to look like Milwaukee cap. The Brewers bought Taylor from the Mets in September 1972. Such alterations were a common Topps practice in virtually all years.
Yeah, that was done a lot. Anytime someone, if they had the opportunity to change a hat or a uniform or something like that for someone who got traded, they would do that. So that's not that big.
Oh, it's the class. It's the classic airbrush. Like, it's great. Some of them are very poorly done.
Absolutely.
And we'll probably drop that in our funny cards episode for sure. But yeah, definitely a common thing. But again, 1985, people are just getting into it and they're like, what is this? So let's see. We have, could you explain what the term white lettering means in 1969 section of your price guide? And they wrote back, Topps had 2 printings of the 5th series cards in 1969. And in the scarcer of the 2 variations were created for some 22 cards numbered between 440 and 511. On these cards, the entire player's name appearing in the circle at the top of the card is in white letters instead of white-yellow combination. Besides Mantle, other superstar among these variations include Gaylord Perry and Willie McCovey. So it's kind of nice that they gave that breakdown. And ironically enough, I kind of just did that because I actually have a Mickey Mantle white letter and a PSA 4 that's on open auction right now at CardKast on eBay. You can click the link below and you can check it out.
Only at $201.50 right now with 3 days and 22 hours to go. 10 bids.
Oh, you're stalking me. You're stalking me. Yeah, absolutely. So this person writes in, this is, you know what? I didn't know. I read this and I was like, you got to be kidding me. I didn't know that. On all my football cards, 1981 and earlier, the sides of the players' helmets don't have team emblems. Why? And I had to think about, I mean, I handle 70s football cards all the time and I just never noticed it. And
okay, I didn't never notice either.
Yeah. So their response was, until 1982, Topps had contracts with the individual players, which allowed the company to use their pictures on gum cards. Flair, however, had the exclusive contract with the NFL to portray team logos, but did not have agreements with individual players. Thus, Topps cards since the early 1970s have shown players without their helmets or with the team insignia airbrushed erased, while Flair's cards featured game action photos, including team logos.
You know what's so funny? I'm in my office right now. I'm looking at my 81 Topps Joe Montana rookie card, and this 49ers logo is not there. I never noticed that. They must have strategically done this, but his helmet, you have to look off to the side, and you can see it's not there. But I would never notice it otherwise. So that's a great catch.
That blew my mind, and this is part of the fun of doing this show is that we do our little bit of research, and I think I know a lot, but I never knew that.
Yeah, me neither. And you know, I mean, you've handled who knows how many thousands upon thousands, and never even crossed your mind. I don't see too many vintage football cards, but I mean, I've seen them, and I just never even noticed. That's amazing. I'm
always interested in learning, and that was a cool. It's like, well, that falls in. I had no idea that existed, Bucket. So
yeah, we learned something from 1985. That's amazing.
So this
info's been out there since 1985, and we're just learning about it today.
I know. That's what's great about this stuff. I love it. Absolutely love it. Last year, I bought a shoebox full of baseball cards at an auction, mostly 1957 to 1959. The box also contained several cards issued by a local dairy, usually referred to as Dixie Cups. Some of the cards are baseball players of the 50s in black and white, while other are TV stars in color. Is this set scarce? What years were they issued? I like this because I have had Dixie lids before, and it falls underneath the oddball category, and they're just really cool cards. I mean, I don't have any in my eBay store, but go look up Dixie lids on eBay. They're fantastic looking. They wrote back, the address on the mail-in offer of your lids pinpoints the issue as 1954. The last of the Dixie Cup issues, which included combination sets of baseball players and entertainers from 1937 to 1938 and 1952 to 1953. There are 18 baseball players in the 1954 set, each worth several dollars a piece, in nice condition. They are much scarcer than their price would indicate, which is important, but the issue is not very popular with collectors. The lids are found with imprinted advertisements of many local dairies. And then the other thing, too, is So so if you imagine they're little circled discs and they have tabs on them. So there are price bumps for the lids that still have the tabs on them, but they're definitely a lot more collectible now, but it's just an obscure issue. Nice oddball novelty item. Very cool and very vintage.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Okay, this is pretty cool. So what does Barry Bonds have for the all-time home runs? Was it 73? Or for for a single season? Yeah. So this is really cool. I'm just giggling while I'm reading it. I have a 1985 Donruss card of Darrell Evans, number 227. It says he had 80 home runs in 1980, but that is incorrect. He had 23 home runs. Have you ever heard about this error? Has it been corrected? Does it have a premium in value? And they wrote, you're the first to mention the error, but since it was not corrected, it has no extra value. Now, I went online and I went and looked. I think Burbank Sports Cards has the front and the back. And in 1980, it says that he hit 80 home runs in a single season. So congratulations to Darrell Evans for being the all-time single season home run leader.
That's so funny. I'd have to look on Beck, because Beckett.com is usually really good about uncorrected errors. They'll let you know. So I'd have to see if they actually have that marked as an uncorrected error.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. So he can always hold that over Barry Bonds' head. Look, it says it right here.
It's on my baseball card. It's got to be true.
Absolutely. This article it's just a small article, and it's pretty cool because they have some top Hall of Famers, but this article is about miscuts. So these are cards that came off the sheet and were cut, and they were cut so horribly that in these cases they're showing part of another card entering that card. And in these cards they grade horribly because the grading is focused around centering. So these cards they're off the charts is considered bad. But again, this is part of what impressed me of how well this magazine was produced back then, because this is something that they talk about. They took out a full page on this with the cards in color. And the article basically starts off with this oops. And then even the oops is like miscut. And then it says major miscuts may mean money. While most collectors consider miscut cards to be damaged goods, there is a growing number of hobbyists who feel this type of error should have a premium value. After all, the reason there are thousands of well-centered 68 Rose cards around, but how many miscuts escape the quality control people at Topps? Collectors of such errors usually pay less for them than normal cards. By contrast, eye-popping errors in the coin and stamp fields generally command mega dollars. The card at the lower right is especially interesting. It's a miscut featuring a 68 Topps baseball card on top with a 67 Topps football card below. So it's interesting because obviously I go through a lot of older stuff, call them virgin collections, childhood collections, and these cards were never picked out. But the fact that they actually came out with this article back then was very interesting to me. And it was interesting because I have a guy, his name is Richard Dingman. I haven't seen him in a long time. I used to see him at all the shows, but I became very friendly with him, and he was putting together sets from the 60s and 70s that were the most miscut. He said, I want to put together complete sets, or try to put together complete sets of the complete opposite of centering and do all miscuts. So what I would do is I would pull them all out, and basically I'd either mail them a box, and most of them were commons. If there were any stars, I might charge them for, like, if there was a Clemente, I would charge them for a Clemente. But basically I would just write in a note, especially with the 70s stuff. If I send them 470s, there might be, I don't know, 5 or 6 60s cards or whatever. But I would write him a note, and it would be an invoice. You owe me 2 cups of coffee at the next show. And he would come in, and at the next show, he'd have 2 cups of hot coffee, and he said, good deal, and shake my hand, and he'd go through stuff, and he'd buy some other stuff for whatever he was collecting. But I thought that idea of putting together complete miscut sets, if you can, is so cool.
That is cool. It's a fun project.
Okay, so getting to the prices of cards. Okay, so this is 1985, October 1985. 1952 Topps Mickey Mantle, ex-mint condition, $1,300. Mike, how many are you buying?
Every single one.
I think this is a situation where we're going to have to upgrade our DeLorean to a giant moving truck, We're gonna put the flux capacitor in a moving truck, and we're just gonna buy, because this is insane. So 52 Topps Mickey Mantle X Mint, $1,300. 1948 Bowman set, the complete set in X Mint, $385 is what they have it listed at.
Oh my God.
This, I thought, considering everything else, I thought this was actually kind of high, but you got to understand, he was going to break the record. 63 Topps Pete Rose in X Mint, $300. I was like, I felt that was kind of high for that time.
Okay. Yeah, but he was 85. I mean, he was popular.
Yeah. 55 Topps Clemente in X Mint, $87. Rookie. VG, $39. Koufax in X Mint, $42. VG, $19. How many do you have? I'm buying them all.
I have one coming in today. A PSA 2, I think.
Yeah.
That's my first one ever.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
it's a great card. Those cards I just love those cards. Killebrew rookie, $25 in X Mint, $11.45 in VG. I love how they use 45 cents.
Well, they don't want you to overpay.
Well, back then pennies mattered, so they don't today. But let's see. 1980 Topps Ricky Henderson, mint, $6.75. 82 Topps Ripken, mint, $5. 79 Topps Ozzie Smith, X Mint, $1.
Wow.
84.
Yeah, his rookie didn't really pop for a while.
Yeah. 84 Donruss Mattingly, $2.25. That's still a great buy today. I mean, an X Mint Ozzie Smith, I mean, I guess that's what you have to buy them for, because they're only worth about $10 anyways. And then if you try to sell them on eBay, you got fees and shipping and But,
yeah,
but still, you buy them all day for $5 a piece, whatever. But anyways, so that's what we got for Baseball Cards, the magazine. And we'll definitely dive into the rest of this magazine at a future date for sure, because there's still a lot of unbelievable content in there.
Yeah. So it looks like we are done with episode 4, and I want to let everybody know that episode 5, we have a special guest. And I'm not even going to tease you. I'm not going to make you wait. It is James Spence from JSA Authentications. How cool is that going to be?
Wow. Yeah, no, that's going to be fantastic, because I know Jimmy, and I know he's got some great stories that he's going to be looking to share with us. Not even so much about the ins and outs of the business, but like how he got there and some of the things he was able to collect and how he got them over the years. It's going to be a really, really cool episode.
Super excited to speak to him.
A sincere thank you to all the listeners out there. Hopefully we were able to distract you a little bit during this crazy time. If you like the show, please like, share, and comment below. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you'll be notified when our new shows are uploaded. Click on the links below to visit Mike's Opening Day Break Room and visit CardKast on eBay. And we're out.